In referring to Western history's early medieval period, the 6th through 10th centuries, historians have moved away from the once familiar term the Dark Ages, a phrase that connotes judgment of so-called post-Roman barbarian people, in favor of descriptors such as the early Middle Ages or the Migration period. Yet one reason for the term dark is it refers to the lack of information about the period. In her sweeping and detailed non-fiction narrative The Dark Queens, the bloody rivalry that forged the medieval world, Bloomsbury, 384 pp, half out of 4, out Tuesday, Shelley Puck reminds us that history is often built on stories specifically excised from records. One major reason for erasure throughout all eras has been to remove the legacy of women in power. The misogynistic logic of patriarchy is curiously circular: women cannot govern because they never have. A rebel nun transfixes in Lauren Groff's medieval masterpiece Matrix. But this big lie rests upon a bed of induced historical amnesia, the work of numberless erasures and omissions collectively sending the message that the women who have ruled haven't earned the right to be remembered. In her study of the lives of 6th century Frankish leaders, Puck restores this right to Brunhild and Fredegund, the Merovingian Dark Queens. The power vacuum created by the fall of Rome proved a time of constant warring between kings and bloodlines who struggled to claim influence and rule territories. When marrying Brunhild, a Visigoth princess from Spain, King Sigebert let it be known that his was a Caesar's wedding, and promptly launched attacks on his brother's territories in the land we now call France. Brunhild, a stranger to the land and language, had to quickly adapt and find allies in a world that was brutal for women. As Puck notes, female bodies transferred and consolidated power in the early medieval world through marriage, childbirth, and relocation. It was of utmost importance that Brunhild produce male heirs to guarantee succession as well as her own safety. Tiffany Drayton on why she left the U.S. to pursue dreams elsewhere. In a neighboring province, the former servant Fredegund managed to leverage King Chilperic's attachment into a marriage, becoming his powerful third wife, and therefore an enemy of Brunhild. Puck traces the intertwined fates of these two women, as they survive harrowing attacks, birthing and losing children, and master strategic moves including horrific acts of violence. One of the book's aims is to recover a sense of the women's lived experience, and the author makes strong use of vivid sensory details, such as in this passage where Fredegund shelters with her children in a bunker during an attack. The sounds of war, sentries sounding the alarms, the whiz of arrows from the towers, the clatter of scaling ladders knocked back down, the rattle of the rams against the city gates, shrieks and screams. And the smoke. Acrid and choking, it was everywhere. While Puck works carefully with the few contemporary sources available, she necessarily speculates to allow readers a possible glimpse into the emotional lives of the two queens. This means frequent use of the conditional tense, as in she would have grieved Sigebert's loss keenly, and her breath would have hitched as she hefted the heavy belt. For some sticklers, this imaginative technique may grate. Overall, however, The Dark Queen succeeds in illuminating both the lives and the political significance of Brunhild and Fredegund, despite the many efforts to suppress their deeds. Fans of historical narrative, as well as Game of Thrones, whose Cersei Lannister was likely inspired by Fredegund, will find enjoyment here, as well as a new perspective on the forces that shaped this tumultuous era.